Today I'm sharing 3 easy and delicious dinner recipes with you. If you're new, welcome. I'm Amy, and welcome back if you have been here before. I'm a wife and a mom to a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I love to share what I'm cooking over here in my kitchen. And if you'd like to see the recipes or the links, if there are any links for the recipes, those will be in the description below, as well as calories and WW points if that interests you. I like to make just easy, healthy, and just really tasty meals that my family will enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started.
When I saw this recipe online, I knew I needed to make it. It's a tomato summer pasta, and I'm still getting tomatoes from my garden, and so I definitely wanted to include this in case you are still getting tomatoes or they're still really good from the store as well. But I took some cherry tomatoes, added in some basil. You are supposed to use fresh, but I didn't have any. Grated in some garlic and olive oil and gave it a really, really good stir. And the best part about this sauce is you don't actually need to cook it. You just set it on the counter for 4 hours and let it all kind of marinate together, and it's just so, so good and fresh. I also did add some salt and a little bit of pepper as well. This recipe will be linked in the description in case you want to make it. I definitely hope you do. It's so good. But I also grated some fresh Parmesan and cooked up the pasta.
It's been about 3.5 hours, but we're gonna go have a picnic. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the pasta that I just cooked up. This looks and smells so delicious, so fresh. And I love using tomatoes and fresh basil in the summer. Of course, I used dried basil because I didn't have fresh, but it'll still be tasty.
I'm going to add the pasta in. I just drained it and it's still really hot.
I'm going to add some Parmesan. I have pre-shredded and I just shredded up a whole bunch. So I'm going to add that in. Okay, and then give it a good stir. I'll add more salt and pepper if needed. I'll go ahead and taste it and see if it needs anything else. That is delicious. The tomatoes still have kind of a nice bite and crunch to them, but they're really sweet. That garlic flavor comes through. The basil is super tasty. The Parmesan adds a nice cheesiness. It's just a really, really tasty pasta, and it's so easy. The thing that took me the longest was actually cooking the pasta and waiting for the water to boil.
Tonight for dinner, I'm making some baked Hawaiian roll sandwiches. This night I was going to do deli sandwiches, but I did not get the ingredients in my grocery pickup, so I'm doing pizza sandwiches, so that was really tasty. But I'm using the Hawaiian Rolls Italian seasoning, garlic, and I shredded up some Parmesan. I used 1 cup, and I also used a teaspoon of olive oil. All I wanted to do with the olive oil was just kind of get the top so that it would crisp up just a tiny bit. And then I also used some pizza sauce. All I do for this recipe is I just take the whole bunch of rolls and slice them all in half so they're still kind of in a group. And I go ahead and just put the ingredients on the bottom and then put the top back on. So I'm just using pizza sauce, cheese, and pepperoni. You could definitely add veggies. You could add whatever kind of cheese you'd like. I mean, just make it your own. But this recipe is so good, and it's a great way to serve a lot of people. I just used a tiny bit of olive oil, like a teaspoon, spread it all on top, and then I just sprinkled on some garlic powder, and I bake it in the oven at 350 for about 15 minutes. You can go ahead and see how much time your oven needs to make these. If you've ever seen Farmhouse on Boone, she has an Instagram and a YouTube, but she recently posted homemade sourdough Hawaiian rolls, and that recipe looks so good. I definitely plan to make that sometime in the future, but these King's Hawaiian rolls are also really good. But you can see these just look so tasty, so delicious. I love how they kind of have a tiny bit of crisp on the outside, but they're just very soft and they're so good. I also, that same week, made some corned beef and cheese Hawaiian rolls, and I just used some deli corned beef, some cheese, and just some sweet pickled jalapenos that I chopped up really tiny on there. And those are really tasty as well. A great lunch option and dinner option.
For dinner tonight, I'm gonna make a really simple but super delicious recipe. I haven't made this for a really long time. This is a crispy orange chicken. It's not fried, it's just pan fried in just a tiny bit of oil. First, I'm gonna get started with the sauce. So it's a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, a 1/2 cup of orange juice, 1 tablespoon of tamari. You could use soy sauce, coconut aminos, whatever you'd like. A tablespoon of garlic. I'm just going to use some ground garlic. You could go ahead and use fresh minced garlic, and some ginger, some sriracha. The recipe calls for a 1/2 tablespoon. I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter just because I have young kids who would not like any heat. And a tablespoon of cornstarch. Go ahead and take it over the stove. I'm going to stir it frequently and cook it for 10 to 15 minutes until it gets nice and thick. Now I'm going to work on the chicken, so I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch to this dish. And unfortunately, I'm out of tamari, which I did not realize I was so low. So I'm actually going to add about 2 tablespoons of teriyaki sauce and a tablespoon of water, just because teriyaki is a bit thicker. Give that a mix, and then we're going to coat all of the chicken in this. I have my cast iron on over at the stove. I've never used the cast iron before. Coming over to the stove, this has gotten really nice and thick, so this is done. And I'm gonna go ahead and get that chicken cooking. All right, let's add in that chicken. I'm gonna cook it for, I think, 4 minutes per side and see if it's done. Well, this did not go ideal. I must have not put enough oil on the bottom of the pan or something like that, because it just stuck really badly. I'm gonna go ahead and check the temperature. Leave sauce over the top. I have the heat off, and this chicken looks so good. It looks so tender. It smells so good with that orange sauce. I will have to kind of look up more about cast irons. I did not do much research at all, so obviously I didn't do something quite right, but it's still gonna taste so good. If you use a nonstick pan, you won't have any issues, but I'm really, really excited to eat this. I also thought I would show you the rice we're using. I love this Trader Joe's vegetable fried rice. You could also just cook your own rice or use whatever you'd like. You could use even just like ramen noodles, anything you'd like, but we love this.
If you have any cast iron tips, leave them in the comments below. But honestly, every single time I make this recipe, I love it. It's so good. I've probably made it like 6 or 7 times over the past few years, and it's a family favorite. I also wanted to go ahead and throw this recipe in. It wasn't a full dinner, but it was a side that we had with dinner. So this is a panzanella salad. I used sourdough, chopped it up into cubes. I actually have also used crusts from my kids that they don't like to eat, and heels, and that works really well as well. So once I had the bread chopped up into cubes, I added some olive oil and some garlic powder, gave it a little mix just with my hands, and I threw it in the toaster oven just until it got a little bit crispy. You can go ahead and throw it in the oven. It would be good in the air fryer for a couple of minutes as well. But to actually make the salad, you can use whatever you want. I still am getting tomatoes from my garden, so I did tomatoes, cut up cucumber. I cut up a peach and put it in there just for kind of that fruity, sweet flavor. I put in a cut up cheese stick. I really like the texture of cheese sticks in a salad. And then those cubed and toasted pieces of bread. And I loved the bread in here. I thought it was kind of like a tastier crouton. It wasn't quite so crispy, and it was just really delicious, and you can use whatever fruits and veggies are in season.
I'm just gonna toss it with garlic expressions. I have made a really good homemade lemon vinaigrette that would go perfectly with this panzanella salad. I will link that video below. There's the recipe link in that video. I hope you enjoyed this video and liked these recipes. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. That does really help out the channel. And I do post every single week, so I will be back next week, and I think I'll post an extra video this week. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching. Bye.